We have just 3 weeks to go now until the Indiana primary election, and once again, former Congressman Mark Souder is here with our primary 2012 coverage. Now, last week, Senator Richard Lugar and his challenger, Richard Murdoch, took part in a debate. We want to just show you a clip from that debate last week.
On a mission to Africa, at the behest of the Secretary of Defense, to work with Kenya and Uganda to fortify those places where dangerous pathogens were being used in laboratories to try to get some inoculations against potential plagues.
While we all have great respect for Mr. Lugar, as you've heard tonight, we have differences. I believe competition is a good thing, and my friends, I do believe it's time.
Obviously, both candidates are trying to play on their strengths. After watching it, do you think one of them did better than another?
Well, Lugar showed he could still stick with detail, like example there. It's tougher to be an incumbent and defend. But the big thing that I think gave Murdoch the edge was he needed credibility. He seemed calm, he projected well, he seemed articulate, and because of that, he's had a little bit of an uptick in money. He got emboldened his supporters. National Review endorsed him today. The national media is now looking at it as a credible race. The New York Times just did a feature story in the last 48 hours. And so I think Murdoch got a little bit of an edge, but this is going to be a nasty fight to the end.
Whichever one wins will face Joe Donnelly, the Democrat, in the general election. Joe Donnelly is a friend of yours. Have you talked to him, and do you have a sense at all of what he's thinking about this Republican race?
Well, it's pretty obvious. What he wants is a really nasty fight right to the bitter end. It's kind of like what we used to joke about with U.S. foreign policy when Iraq and Iran were fighting with each other. We want to aid the one that's behind. If Murdoch wins, then maybe some of the Lugar moderates will go over to Donnelly. If Lugar wins, then some of the conservatives might skip the vote. Donnelly wins either way.
All right, let's switch now to the presidential race. Obviously, Rick Santorum has dropped out of the race, puts Mitt Romney, some would say, at a distinct advantage. It appears he could clinch the nomination here in Indiana. Where do you think that stands right now? And does Indiana really play a role now that this has happened?
Well, there's not going to be much controversy. The big question is what would be any kind of result that could upset anything? One would be as if Romney can't top 50 or even 60%, because it would show that the Republicans in Indiana aren't gelling behind him yet. Obama carried Indiana, and it could tempt Obama in the fall, whereas right now I think they've kind of written off Indiana.
Now, because Obama won in the last election, we really haven't seen a whole lot of Mitt Romney. Does that surprise you that he has not been here more to help fight that from the previous election?
Yes, I would have thought that given his weakness in Ohio and Michigan, he would have been in the Great Lakes region. He's coming in for a fundraiser the night before the primary. But I think it's partly because North Carolina and West Virginia are even tougher swing states that are in play in the fall. Plus the fact is he doesn't want to get drawn into the Lugar-Murdoch fight.
Okay, lots of polls have been released looking at the upcoming election. Both CNN and Gallup have released the Obama versus Romney polls. Considerably different results in these. CNN gave Obama a 9 percentage point lead over Romney among registered voters. The Gallup poll is a whole lot closer. Romney has a 2-point lead. That is well within the margin of error. So is it too early, Mark, to take this kind of a poll? If it's not too early, what does something like this mean? What do you take away from it?
Well, it's pretty early. People are fickle. They're going to change based on foreign policy events, the economy, and many things. But basically, CNN and the network polls are going to tilt 1 to 2 points or more towards the Democratic side. Rasmussen and the Fox News polls will usually tilt 1 to 2 or a little more points to the Republican side. Gallup and Reuters will be somewhere in between. What you really need to do is look at the mix. And right now the mix is suggesting that President Obama has a slight lead because of the bruising Republican primary. But this is likely to tighten. And
likely to change back and forth as time goes on.
Just think, if we had a terrorist attack, what would happen? If the Middle East blew up, what would happen? If unemployment suddenly goes to 10%, those kind of things matter more than the current poll.
Sure. Okay. Thank you once again, Congressman Mark Souder, for your analysis. We appreciate that.